Hey everybody, I'm Koa.
I'm True.
And this is the Crew Movie Review. Okay, so we just got back from watching Good Boys, and I gotta say, it is probably it is the funniest movie that I have seen so far this year.
Yep.
It is, the main characters are kids. It is not a kids movie. Do not take your kids to watch this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a lot of sex reference, drugs,
Not
drinking.
too much, though.
Not too much.
I mean,
every other scene was
not
either sex,
really, not
drugs,
like a
or
crude kind of sex reference, you know.
yeah, it was sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah, but it's not
alcohol. You know it, but absolutely funny. Like it's like every other scene is like non-stop laughing. I don't want to overplay it, and I don't want to build it up. You know. But it is funny. But
it's not the crude kind of funny that we've come to expect from a lot of the comedy movies, where it's like the cruder it is, the dirtier it is, the funnier it is. And I've noticed that in the last couple of decades, like the comedy has edged towards that. But it's not that kind of movie. It's more like an innocent / slightly, it's just innocence, like an innocence and pure, like, comedy. Like, it's funny. Like, it's so sweet. Like, you think it's funny also because it's so cute. A lot of the scenes are so cute, and how real. I felt like it was a movie, but it was more like real life kind of how kids would act. You know.
I mean, it is a coming of age movie. Mm-hmm. I don't want to give too much of it away, and we won't just yet. But the basic of the movie is these kids are invited to another kid's party, and there's going to be girls, and it's going to be a kissing party. And so they want to be part of the cool crowd, so they kind of get into some mischief to make this happen. And then just one thing leads to another, and it just kind of gets them in a worse situation. But it's just hilarious the whole way through. It is starring, the main characters is Jacob Tremblay, Keith L. Williams, Brady Noon. The director and writer, they co-produced and co-wrote together. They produced and wrote The Office. So if you enjoyed The Office and their humor, these are the guys behind the scenes who are directing this movie and writing this movie. So
and the original Office, a lot of the times in the beginning, at least, I don't know about later on because I didn't watch it later, but that comedy is also more based on how real world people might act, like when they're put in a comic situation, dealing with a comic, like a joke of a boss, and they're like, their reactions are more like, what? Like, you know what I mean? Because that's how real people would act, Yeah. And going into this movie, I really felt like I was gonna watch like a movie similar to Stand By Me, an old movie, a group of kids coming of age. That has more of, the camaraderie. This movie still has that same sense of camaraderie that Stand By Me had, but with more humor. So I think it's the best of both worlds. Both a little bit of drama, yet every scene is hilarious. It's not, there's not one scene it's not hilarious. I felt like,
like I said, I was just laughing almost through the entire movie.
The whole theater was, and this is a matinee show, and the whole theater was just like cracking up constantly. And I usually don't laugh out so much in the theater, but I was just like probably the loudest person in there, just like cracking up, just like, oh my god.
There was a lot of laughs, so I mean it was kind of hard. I mean, but
yeah. What was your best scene? I mean, favorite scene of the movie? Do you remember?
Oh man, I can't really point out a favorite scene, and well, if we want to go that far into it and start doing like spoilers and stuff like that and talking more in depth.
just overall, you don't want to talk about plot, but just overall what you thought about what's the favorite part of the movie.
I think I can do that without giving up too much. I think my favorite scene is probably when they got the bright idea to use a drone to get some footage, and their angst to try and get it back, they end up crashing it, and so they kind of go through this stuff to get it back, and it is just that whole thing. It's several scenes long, but that whole thing is just like hilarious.
For me, I think my favorite part of the movie was towards the end, where they, I mean, without going into details, they realized they may, growing up, part of growing up is growing apart or growing in separate paths, on separate parts and different paths, and they added that part into it, and the fact that these kids, this is not, it is, the way they dealt with it, it felt very like, okay, that I can see that happening. If I ever was a kid, a boy, I had two of my best friends, and I could see that happening. And it was like a, and I didn't cry, but I was like, oh, I mean,
you would pick that part.
Yeah, but it added a little bit of
a little bit of humor to it,
a groundedness to the whole movie, because a lot of the scenes are like, oh my gosh, like really,
Yeah, it is. It's a bit of kind of I don't want to say it's an emotional roller coaster. I mean, there are some scenes in there where you're like, oh, scary, and then other times there is a scene there. It's like, oh, you're sad, but most of it, it's just pure comedy.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I would definitely give it, like, let's say we're doing 5 stars or 10 stars. What do you want to?
10 stars.
Okay, out of 10. We'll just say out of 10.
Okay,
like Rotten Tomatoes, they do out of 10.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just like IMDb and.
Yeah, right. Most people do out of 10. I would say like an 8 or a 9. I mean, it is.
I mean, I want to be very, very, very picky with my 10s or 9s. Like 9 has to be almost perfect. 10 has to be perfect. So I would give it an 8 because I don't think it's like my favorite movie. It was a pretty good movie. It was a pretty good.
Well, it's still in the middle of the
definitely
year.
Would
we've still got 6 more months to go, but
the best of the year for me as well.
So far, yes.
So far, and the acting. Let's talk about the acting. The acting was really good.
Yeah,
it was very
I'm
natural.
Surprised. The kids were really good.
The kids were really good. Like I knew like. I didn't have friends like that, like in terms of those kind of personalities, but I know exactly what the types that they were trying to portray.
Right.
And it was just like it was really funny.
You definitely got to get
spot on with the casting for sure.
Yeah, definitely got to give a shout out to the casters, the people who picked the casting, and then I'm sure the director and the writer, Lee and Gene, are probably part of that. You guys picked good actors for that, and man, I gotta say, Thor, Brady Noon, has a hell of a voice for such a young kid.
Yeah.
There is a bit of a singing bit in there, and he decides to belt it out, and it's just like, wow, that kid can sing. He's definitely got a future.
I do have to note that I like the fact that they didn't pick someone who can sing like flawlessly. He sounds like a kid still, but that was the charm of it. Like it's this whole movie.
Yeah, he doesn't have the experience of, let's say, Celine Dion or someone
but
with
some
like,
movies
experience.
They do stuff like that. Like I don't know, from Love Actually, like an older movie, but one of the kids, they sing and they sound like Mariah Carey, whatever. They sound like really. But this kid's like, he sounds like a kid still, but he's still, you can see like, oh, you can. Yeah, you enjoy that kid's voice. It's still a very good thing.
Definitely.
And I like goofy humor, not goofy stupid, but goofy funny. So this was definitely in the latter category.
Yeah. I would definitely go watch it. This is definitely a movie to go watch. Not with your kids unless, they're older, but I mean, it's not a kid movie.
I'd say tweens is great.
Older teens?
Because this was a tweens movie.
Like a 15 older? 15 and older, 16 maybe? I mean...
13, I think it's like 12, 13, 14.
I don't know about that young, but that's just me.
One of, like, the main kid, or at least the main kid, Max, reminded me of my nephew, like, Ryan. Like, I was like, oh, he, I mean, they definitely knew about sex and everything. They definitely were swearing by then, so it's very true to life. Like, it's not like they were trying to sound adult. It's just the kids nowadays, they swear, they do what, they talk, they know about sex, they just don't really know about it. They don't know.
They know of it, they don't know anything about it.
They don't know really anything about it, but
So anyway, so yeah, definitely go watch the movie. It's definitely worth watching at the theater. So we'll pretty much end our review there. I don't want to spoil anything for you guys. So now I kind of want to go over a little more details, maybe spoil some things here for you guys. So if you don't want any spoilers, if you haven't watched the movie yet, go ahead and leave the room now. Go watch the movie, then come back. You've been warned. All right, so yeah, how do we start this? So the main character, the kid, you know, he's in his room all by himself, and he's typing the computer, and he's like playing a video game, and he's creating his character. He picks a female character, and then uses the little sliders to make her boobs like really big. He's just like, yeah. You know,
but you know that's
like
so true because like
that's like the only porn you can get as a kid.
Kids,
you're like, oh, you
all
know.
boys. Most boys, whenever they play games, or they usually choose a female character with like the prettiest or the biggest boobs, because that's so true. Because you know.
So it's funny because he's like, yeah, and then he goes over to his room, over to his door, because he's in his bedroom, and he uses a power cord to tie his door to try to tie it shut, and the door swings into the room, not out of the room. So his dad walks in. I mean, he's not doing anything. He's getting ready. He's sitting on the bed, getting ready to look at this picture, and his dad just opens the door and walks in. You know, it's like, hey son, how you doing? He's like, what? And he slams his computer shut, and he's like, oh. And then his dad kind of like realizes what's going on. He's like looking at the door. He sees the cord trying to close the door, and he's like, "Oh, son, yes, I know you're coming of that time, and you're thinking about things. You know, it's only natural." And the kid's just like, "No, Dad, no, not at all." He's just trying to play it off, and it was hilarious.
And there were a lot of like moments for me at least. I'm like, oh, that's so cute, you know,
right.
because the three kids are so cute. And you know, sometimes some comedy movies can have like awkward breaks. I feel like the editing was spot on because they knew exactly when to cut, how to play up that joke, and some of the jokes aren't played up. It still flowed smoothly enough that you go.
They weren't
over the
top.
like what you know.
One of the scenes you asked, like, earlier, what scene I like, what I thought was kind of funny, and it's not necessarily one of my favorite scenes, but it seemed like it was an homage to Terminator, because when they get in trouble with the drone, and because they're like, oh, we gotta watch, how do you kiss, because they want to go to this kissing party, and they don't know how to kiss, so they use their drone to go spy on these girls. And it crashes in their backyard, and they take the drone. So they're trying to negotiate getting the drone back, because when they went there,
and
the girl said no.
Most of the movie plays on that, like this tug of war going on with the two girls and three boys while they're trying to get to the party, or so in the process of getting.
So they go to get the drone back, and they basically tell them no, that they're not going to get the drone back. And so one of the boys steals the girl's purse. And in it was a bottle of drugs.
Okay, you're going so much into
this is the spoiler part. This is the spoiler
I know,
part.
but it's unnecessary.
No, it's not. It's absolutely necessary.
Okay.
It is absolutely necessary. So, because I got to set up the scene here. So they steal the drugs, and they're trying to negotiate, I'll give you the drugs if you give me the drone, and that kind of thing. And they try to make a break for it. Goes south. The deal goes south, and they make a break for it, and they run. And the girls start chasing the boys, or one of the girls starts chasing the boys, and I want to say it's like I don't know if it was deliberate. It has to be deliberate, but it's like an homage to the Terminator, and the girl's just like running like this after the guy, after the kids on the bikes, and it's just the first thing kind of thought in my head was, have you seen these boys? And and the guy's like, oh, and he takes off in his car, and the Terminator starts running behind the car after the guy. Well, kind of did the same thing with the girl and the kids on the bike.
I feel like,
and it was just it was funny. It was just,
what the directors do a good job is they don't overhype certain moments. Like that scene could have been overhyped and added like sound effects or whatever to make it like blatantly Terminator-like chase, but then they kind of downplay it, and that's the beauty of it. I think the fact that they downplay it and it's still funny because it still comes off like their movie, not
Right.
trying to like copy something else or copy some other boring stale joke. They still, I mean, in terms of boring stale jokes, they still had a lot of these kids movies, or not kids movies, a lot of these kind of comedy movies, they have sex jokes or sex toy jokes where one person doesn't realize what this toy is for and they use it for something some other purpose that they mistake it for. But this movie, like they don't overly play that, but they still bring it to the forefront enough that it's funny,
Right. Like the one kid gets hurt and he's like, oh, you need to bite down on something really hard, and so he pulls out his bag and he has the gag ball, like a BDSM thing, and he puts it over his mouth and he's like, here, bite on this, and it's just like, oh my gosh, absolutely funny. And that'll conclude the Crew review. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.
And watch out for our reviews on these movies next week.